You're fired, Julia. Effective immediately. Pack your things. That was the first thing my sister Olivia said to me after she walked into the office as the new CEO of our family business. No warm hello. No smile. Just cold, emotionless words that echoed through the boardroom. Our family members sitting around the table all looked away, pretending not to hear. My hands froze over my keyboard, and I blinked at her, not sure I heard right. I looked at her, and the only thing I could do was laugh. Loud. Uncontrollably. The kind of laugh you let out when something is so outrageous, so unexpected, that it actually becomes funny. She stood there, arms crossed, clearly not expecting that reaction. And I couldn't stop laughing. Because Olivia had no idea what she had just done. Let me tell you how we got here. I'm Julia Carter, 34 years old. I've worked at our family's pharmaceutical company, Carter Labs, for nearly 12 years. I started from the bottom, literally, as a junior researcher. My father, Henry Carter, always said, if you want to run this company one day, you have to own it. And I did. I worked nights. I missed holidays. I spent hours in labs trying to crack formulas. And then, 6 years ago, I did something no one in the company had managed in decades. I developed what would become our best-selling drug. A chronic pain management pill that worked without being addictive. It saved lives. And it made Carter Labs billions. The stock tripled in value. Our company expanded globally. My dad gave me full credit. I was promoted to executive VP and led the research division. I wasn't just the CEO's daughter, I was a key piece of the company's future. Olivia, on the other hand, was always the golden child. Younger by 2 years, prettier by most people's standards, and with a gift for charm. She never wanted to work in science. She went into marketing, then PR, then left the company for a while to find herself in Europe. When our father passed away suddenly last year, the company went into shock. The board had to choose a new CEO. Despite my contributions, Olivia had something I didn't: connections. She knew people. She schmoozed the board, told them what they wanted to hear, and they made her CEO. I swallowed the bitter pill and kept my head down. I figured I'd keep doing what I did best: research, building products, creating value. I thought maybe she'd need me. I was wrong. Olivia walked into the boardroom her first day, sat down in Dad's chair like she was born for it, and made her first executive decision: to fire me. The board didn't object. I couldn't believe it. No warning. No conversation. Just a pink slip. But here's the thing. Olivia didn't know one small detail. The patent for the best-selling drug, the one keeping the company afloat, it wasn't owned by Carter Labs. It was owned by me. See, when I was working on the formula in my tiny lab 6 years ago, I filed for the patent under my own name. It wasn't out of greed. Back then, the company wasn't investing in my research. I paid for the initial trials out of my own pocket. When it finally worked, I presented it to Dad. He loved it, offered to license the formula through the company, and I agreed. It was a simple deal. They'd pay me royalties. The company made money, and so did I. Everyone won. But Olivia, she had no idea. No one ever told her. And now she had just fired the person keeping the company's best product on the market. I packed up my desk slowly, took my time, let her enjoy her little power trip, because I knew it wouldn't last long. What happened next, though? Well, let's just say it sent shockwaves through the entire company. And it all started 2 days later, when they tried to renew the licensing agreement without me. That's when everything began to unravel. But before we get there, let me take you back a bit further. To when Olivia and I were still kids. Back then, we were inseparable. We shared everything: bedroom, toys, even secrets. She'd sneak cookies into our room, and I'd help her with her math homework. Our dad used to take us fishing on weekends. He always said, "You girls will run this company together one day." Side by side. We believed him. But something changed in Olivia during college. She started comparing everything: grades, clothes, boyfriends. If I got a B+, she had to get an A. If I got a compliment, she had to get 2. I thought it was just a phase. But it kept getting worse. When I joined the company, I stuck to the science. She joined the public relations team and quickly became the face of the brand. Dad loved us both, but I knew he leaned on me more. He trusted me to handle the hard stuff. And Olivia noticed. One time, during a holiday dinner, I overheard her telling our cousin Sarah that Dad would never really trust her with the company as long as I was around. I should have said something. I should have told her she didn't need to compete with me. But I didn't. I just kept working. The real trouble started after Dad passed. The board was split. Half supported me. The other half backed Olivia, mostly because she promised bold changes and a modern direction. She won the vote. I congratulated her. Genuinely. Even hugged her. She smiled. Said we'd work well together. Then she stopped returning my calls. Meetings I was scheduled to attend were suddenly moved. My memos went unanswered. Slowly, I realized I was being frozen out. Still, I didn't think she'd actually fire me. I mean, who fires their own sister? Now I knew. As I walked out of the building with my box of things, I bumped into Karen, our longtime receptionist. She gave me a sad look. She didn't even wait a week, she whispered. I know, I said, smiling. But this story's far from over. And I meant it. Because Olivia had just declared war on the wrong person. And soon, the entire company would feel the aftershocks. It all started the next morning, when my lawyer got a phone call from Carter Labs. And what they said, that changed everything. Everyone stayed as James walked across the yard, hand in hand with her. People stopped mid-conversation. My daughter, Melissa, froze, her baby shower gift halfway unwrapped. James smiled like he'd just won the lottery, and I, still standing with that pink-frosted cupcake in my hand, wanted to disappear. The woman was tall, maybe early 30s, with shiny brown hair and a gold necklace that screamed expensive. She was dressed too glamorously for a baby shower, and her arm was linked around my husband's like they were at a red carpet event. I didn't come to cause drama, James said casually. I just thought it was time to be honest with everyone. Then he looked at me. Linda, I've met someone else. We're together now. It's been a while. Melissa gasped. Are you? What? I didn't speak. Not because I was heartbroken, though I was, but because I was calculating. This wasn't the first time James had pulled something selfish. But doing this today, at our daughter's shower, in front of our family, our friends, our grandchild's gifts, people began whispering. Some left early. Melissa was trying not to cry as her husband pulled her aside. And James, he was smirking. Like he had just won something. What James didn't know, what no one in that backyard knew, was that I already knew about his affair. I knew everything. And I'd been preparing for this moment. Carefully, quietly, like I always had. You see, 2 months before, I found a receipt in his jacket for a hotel in another city. I thought it was odd. He said he was on a business trip. Then I saw text messages when he left his phone on the kitchen counter. He had a code name for her. Violet. How sweet. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even confront him. I just started watching, gathering, copying files, taking notes. Because James didn't just betray me as a husband. He betrayed me as a business partner. Yes, we co-owned our financial planning firm. I helped build it from scratch. But legally, the business was under both our names. And over the years, I'd let him handle most of the finances because he insisted he was better at it. Numbers are my thing, honey, he'd say with that stupid wink. I trusted him. But I also backed up everything. Passwords, transfers, even little irregularities in spending. I started asking questions at the office. Quiet ones. One of our junior accountants, Jason, pulled me aside one day. Mrs. Reynolds, I don't mean to pry, but there's been some suspicious movement from our investment accounts. I nodded. I know, Jason. I've been watching too. That was the first time I realized how deep this might go. It wasn't just about cheating. James was hiding money. So I contacted a lawyer. Not a divorce lawyer yet. A business attorney. We discussed ownership clauses, silent partner rights, and financial fraud. It turned out, James had been a little sloppy. Back to the party. As I watched him parade his new girlfriend around, shaking hands like a politician, all I could think about was how stupid he was. because the paperwork was already in motion. He had no idea what was coming. Later that night, after everyone left and the decorations were being torn down, James cornered me in the kitchen. "I know this was awkward," he said, pouring himself a drink like nothing had happened. "But now we can finally move forward. We'll file everything soon." "File what?" I asked. He raised an eyebrow. "The divorce. Obviously." I smiled. "Oh, James," I said softly, "you're so far behind." And I walked out, because just that morning, something had happened. Something big. But I hadn't told him. Not yet. The morning of the baby shower, while James was probably buying overpriced wine and trying to pick out a shirt that made him look cool, I was in my lawyer's office signing something that would change everything. It was quiet, cold even, and the conference room had this long mahogany table that made me feel like I was sitting inside a chessboard. And in that moment, I was playing the queen. "Linda," said Maria, my attorney, sliding over the last document, "once this is filed, the court will begin the audit of your shared business finances. If our suspicions are right, your husband could be looking at charges." I nodded and signed. "Thank you, Maria. I want everything to be clean." What James didn't know was that I had already been working behind the scenes for weeks. I didn't just get mad, I got smart. I had found every shell account, every suspicious transfer. All of it. And I didn't take it to the police. Not yet. I took it to the board. Our business had 6 other stakeholders. 3 of them were family, and 3 were outside investors who didn't like surprises. And once I showed them where the money had gone, and how James had misused company funds to pay for luxury hotels, fancy dinners, and even gifts for Violet, they were furious. One of them, Patrick, an older man who had backed us from day one, said, "Linda, I never took you for the quiet type. But you've been watching all along, haven't you?" I smiled. I had to be sure. Patrick shook his head. "James has no idea how much trouble he's in." That morning, the board had met privately, without James. I presented everything. And by the end of the meeting, we had voted to freeze his access to all business accounts. Not a single dollar could move without my approval. And a financial review team was scheduled to begin the audit in 72 hours. So yes, when James looked at me that night with that smug little smirk, thinking he was about to break my heart, I was already 10 steps ahead. But of course, James being James, he didn't notice. He never really noticed anything unless it made him look good. The next few days were quieter than usual. He wasn't home much, which was fine by me. Melissa came by to drop off thank you cards from the baby shower. She didn't say anything about the incident, but her eyes looked tired. I could tell it still hurt her. "You okay, Mom?" she asked. "I will be," I told her. She gave me a long look. "I can't believe he did that." "I mean, at the baby shower. Really?" I didn't have words. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because I felt too much. Anger, sadness, embarrassment, but also, strangely, relief. Because now, I had clarity. James had shown me who he really was, and I believed him. But things were about to get messier. 2 days later, James showed up at the office, loud, furious, demanding to know why his company card wasn't working. "Linda," he barked from the door of my office. "What the hell is going on? I can't even access the payroll system." I looked up slowly. "It's being audited." He blinked. "Audited? By who?" "By people who are very interested in how you spent over $120,000 this year without board approval." He stared at me, face going pale. "You wouldn't." "Oh, but I already did," I said calmly. He laughed. "This is a joke. You can't do that." "Yes," I said, standing up. "I can." And I did. He stormed out. I didn't flinch. Not anymore. But that wasn't even the biggest blow. Later that night, just as I was about to turn in, I got an email from one of the board members. Subject line, emergency meeting request. I opened it. "Linda, several of us feel it's time we discuss full removal of James from his CEO role. His actions have harmed the company's reputation, and we believe there is enough evidence to proceed. Can you meet first thing tomorrow?" I stared at the screen. James was about to lose more than just a marriage. He was about to lose everything. The boardroom was tense. The kind of silence that makes you feel like the walls are holding their breath. 7 chairs. 6 filled. 1 empty. The one at the head of a table, James's chair. He was late, but I knew it wasn't because of traffic or a meeting. It was his pride. He knew what this meeting was. And deep down, maybe he was scared to walk in and face the consequences. I sat there with the binder in my lap. Every receipt, every email, every violation. Labeled, highlighted, dated. Patrick cleared his throat. Let's begin. Just then, the glass door swung open. James walked in wearing that same fake confidence he always did. He scanned the room, saw every eye locked on him, and tried to play it cool. Sorry I'm late, he said, adjusting his tie. Didn't realize we were having a trial today. Have a seat, Patrick said coldly. James slid into the empty chair, trying to smirk at me. I didn't blink. This isn't a trial, another board member, Karen, said. This is a business meeting. To discuss actions that have violated your responsibilities as CEO. James snorted. Please. Linda's poisoning the well because I decided to move on. This is personal. I opened my binder and slid a document across the table. James, these are copies of company expenses billed under your name over the past 14 months. The majority of them have nothing to do with company operations. He didn't touch the paper. Just glared. Luxury vacations, Patrick added, flipping through his own copy. Designer jewelry. A $6,000 dinner in New York. And what's this one? Wellness retreat in Maui. James shrugged. Corporate bonding. Karen scoffed. With who? Violet. His face twitched. That was it. The room knew. And then came the final blow. The audit team we hired has completed their preliminary review, I said calmly. They've found at least 3 accounts that appear to be used to funnel company money for personal use. This isn't a divorce issue, James. This is a breach of fiduciary duty. He laughed bitterly. You can't prove that. Oh, I said, pulling out one last page, but we already did. Patrick leaned forward. We're calling for a vote. Effective immediately, the board is deciding whether you remain CEO. James jumped to his feet. This is insane. You can't fire me. James, Karen said, you're not being fired. You're being removed. For cause. There's a difference. His hands clenched. His voice cracked. You think you can run this company without me? I stood up. I've already started. The vote was swift. 5-1. Patrick handed me the gavel. Linda, the board has elected you interim CEO while we undergo reorganization. James stared at me, stunned. You planned this. You were waiting. No, I said quietly. I was surviving. Until I didn't have to anymore. He stormed out, slamming the door. But that wasn't the last I heard of him. 2 nights later, I got a phone call from Melissa. Mom, she whispered, panicked. Dad just showed up at our apartment. He's yelling outside. I don't know what to do. I dropped my phone. When Melissa called me, her voice was shaking like she'd seen a ghost. Mom, she repeated. He's here. He's outside. He's pounding on the door and yelling about you, something about money. He sounds off. I grabbed my keys, threw on the nearest pair of sneakers, and raced out the door. I didn't even think about it. All I knew was that my daughter, my pregnant daughter, was afraid. And her father was the reason why. It took me 15 minutes to get to her apartment, but it felt like an hour. My heart pounded against my chest like it wanted out. I parked crooked, didn't lock the car, didn't even care. When I reached the hallway, I could hear James's voice through the door. Slurred. Loud. Angry. I built that company. You think she did this on her own? Melissa opened the door a crack when I knocked, her eyes wide with fear. He won't leave, Mom. I looked past her and saw James. His tie was loose, his shirt wrinkled, eyes bloodshot. He looked nothing like the man I married. Not even like the man who betrayed me. Just hollow. Lost. James, I said sharply, stepping inside and shutting the door behind me. This ends right now. He turned to me, blinking like I was someone he didn't recognize. Of course. You'd show up. You and your little power play. You think this is over? I know it is, I said calmly. You're trespassing. If you don't leave now, I will call the police. You wouldn't, he scoffed. I pulled out my phone. Try me. He stared at me, then at Melissa. Her hand was protectively on her belly. That seemed to snap something in him. The fire in his eyes turned into shame. Quietly, he backed up. Fine, he muttered. You'll see what happens next. And just like that, he left. I locked the door and pulled Melissa into a hug. She started crying. I didn't think he'd come here, she whispered. I didn't think he'd go this far. Neither did I. That night, after I knew she was safe, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of cold tea and stared at the file I hadn't opened in weeks. My lawyer had given it to me in case things with James ever escalated. It was time to finish this. But before I could act, something else happened. The next morning, I got a call from Patrick. Linda, he said, his voice tight, you need to come to the office. Someone broke in. When I walked into the office, glass crunched under my heels. The front door was shattered. Papers were scattered like confetti. Desks overturned. Our sign, ML Family Consulting, was cracked down the middle, still dangling from the wall. Patrick looked shaken. We've already called the police. Nothing major was stolen. No laptops. No cash. Not even the safes. But whoever did this was looking for something. I immediately knew who it was. James. This wasn't a robbery. It was desperation. I walked past the mess and into my office. The drawers had been rifled through, files dumped on the floor. But one file, the one I had prepared months ago in case James ever tried to retaliate, was gone. I didn't say anything to Patrick yet. I needed time to think. That night, the security footage came in. It was him. Clear as day, in a hoodie and gloves. James had broken into the office. At 3:47 a.m., he smashed the door with a rock, then rummaged for 20 minutes before walking out, clutching something to his chest. I stared at the screen. My heart didn't race. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry anymore. I just felt sad. This man had once held my hand at the birth of our daughter. Now he was stealing from us. From her. But I didn't have to chase him. Because the file he took, it wasn't the real one. That was locked away in my home safe. The one he stole. It was bait. I had already spoken to my lawyer weeks ago, and we had everything ready, records of financial fraud, screenshots of hidden transactions, and an affidavit from one of his former business partners who admitted James funneled company money for personal use. I'd been preparing for this since the day he walked out of the baby shower with that woman. He didn't know I'd already handed copies to my lawyer, the IRS, and the board of directors. And they were about to act. A week later, James was arrested for embezzlement and corporate theft. I didn't even have to lift a finger. Melissa cried when she heard. But they weren't sad tears. I just don't understand why he let it get this far, she said quietly. Sometimes people build a version of themselves that can't survive honesty, I said. And when that version starts to crumble, they panic. She nodded, her hand resting on her belly. You saved us. No, honey. You saved yourself. I just gave you room to breathe. 3 months later, I watched my daughter hold her newborn son. Her husband stood beside her, crying happy tears. I'd never seen her glow like that. As for me, I reopened my consulting firm under a new name. No longer ML, just L & Company, because I finally realized I was enough all along. And James, he didn't just lose his wife or his daughter. He lost his last chance. Because he didn't know. I'd already won.do subscribe for more videos.